Welcome to EPG Pathashala. I am Professor E. Sivanagi, Director, National Institute of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Hyderabad, and currently working as Chief Executive Officer, the Cultural Center of Vijayawada. Today, we are going to learn a module called The Components of Tourism for the paper Tourism in India. You all know that tourism is defined in simple terms that the movement of people from their place of residence to new places for seeing new things, for experiencing new activities and learning new things and coming back to their places of residence. When people move to other areas, they need certain products and services, and the products include the places that they see which are known as the destinations, and sometimes they will also enjoy the events that are celebrated locally. And services they really need include travel agents, tour operators and local transport, besides a good number of ancillary services which are commonly known as the components of tourism. Now, the objectives of this particular module include the components of tourism, role of components of tourism, importance of different components at a particular destination. For example, the components differ from one place to another place. At some destinations, we need only water transport facilities, and at some places, we need only air transport. So, most of the destinations have their own choices of tourism components. If we go into the details of the module, tourism is considered as a leisure activity. You all know that tourism works against the working culture. That is, most of the people who work during the week, they tend to move to places other than their residence. Hence, it is called tourism activity. People travel within their country of origin as well as outside the country. That is, a tourist from Chennai will visit Bangalore, and people from India will move to Switzerland. This is exactly the real meaning of tourism. For a destination to become successful, there are certain important factors termed as components of tourism, based upon which any country will fare well as far as the tourism sector development is concerned. Pleasing weather, scenic attraction, historical sites, cultural activities, transport facilities, accommodation facilities, safety and security are some of the factors that draw to a particular tourist destination. These components are referred as 5 A's of tourism, that is 5 attractions of tourism at any destination. If you can take any tourism destination, that it will have its own uniqueness to attract. For example, again, Agra has its cultural attractions, that is in terms of sites, monuments and the great Agra Fort as well as the Taj Mahal. Similarly, attractions also include whole lot of things that will be explained in the succeeding phase. Followed by accessibility, people need to move to that area, reach that area comfortably, safely. This is known as accessibility. And accommodation. Accommodation is when they leave their original homes, they also need similar comforts or more comforts or luxurious comforts for their stay, even for a day or two. This comes under the term accommodation. Activities. Whenever they are at a tourism destination, they don't stay whole the day in hotels or other accommodation categories. They would like to move further destinations to see various attractions at a particular destination. For example, any person who visits Delhi would like to see Qutub Minar, would like to see Connaught Circus, would also like to see Jantar Mantar. Similarly, other destinations also have varieties of areas of attraction as activities. Activities also include, that is, some people would like to participate in the activities such as in a snow dome. You cannot see and enjoy a snow dome from outside, that you will be given a particular dress and you will be allowed into the snow dome and you feel that as if you are under snowfall. This comes under one of the activities at a snow dome. Next and the last category among the tourism components is amenities. What is an amenity? You all know that amenity is a facility. Amenity enables people to enjoy a lot more at a particular destination, and there are many such amenities at any destination, or even during the transit also there are amenities that also will be discussed. Coming to the subheading attractions, when a place is visited for its intrinsic or exhibit innate or cultural value, historical importance, natural or built splendor, offering leisure, adventure and amusement, it becomes a real tourist destination or attraction. In terms of a little elaboration, we can say that the historical places of historical importance, any monument, for example, Charminar, Golconda Fort, Qutub Minar, these are all come under historical importance, where built splendor can also be experienced. We will definitely appreciate the aesthetic value of that particular historical monument. While you are on leisure, you see that you are appreciating, you are seeing, and you are knowing the history of that particular building, and you are also know the aesthetics of that building and the designs of the building, the people who built that particular monument, etc. Attractions are again classified into two categories, basically, that is natural attractions and cultural attractions. Natural attractions include typical landforms, which include hills, mountains, plateaus, canyons, deserts, valleys, peninsulas, ridges, bays, volcanoes, etc., form the various landforms visited by the tourist. Here, I would also take one more moment to give further explanation on these things. For example, canyons, the Grand Canyons in America. We do not have similar things here. Similarly, the deserts, we have Thar desert in Rajasthan and other deserts in Egypt. So most of the people, they would like to see unique places where they do not have in their places of domicile or the country. So this becomes a natural attraction because it is not man-made, it is naturally available and a natural formation which has that intrinsic value to draw the tourists, many in number. The next category is water bodies such as sea, river, lakes, waterfall and backwaters are also called as natural attractions. In India, India is also known as peninsular India, and the borders all along the peninsula touch the water body, none other than the sea coast. But states like Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh and some Telangana, they do not have seas bordering to their boundaries. In such cases, people would tend definitely to visit those areas to experience, to enjoy the water tides, the waves, the sandy coast, the people on the beach front, etc. Last one is, after the beaches, we can also discuss something on the tropical islands, coral reef, hiking parks, national parks, mountains, forests, etc. under the other natural attractions. We do not have coral reef in India when compared to the Gold Coast of Australia and again in some Arabian countries. So most of the people definitely would like to reach that place which is a unique place known for coral reef, enjoy the natural, unique beauty and come back. Natural attractions also include not only the landscapes, not only the water bodies, not only the tidal waves, but also the biodiversity. Without the living organ, nature has no meaning. Within the nature, you take any forest, you take any water body, there is some living organism which plays a great role in attracting the people. And there are certain activities added as leisure activities with the availability of the biodiversity, like bird watching, then diving in the water, because you will touch the coral reef, fish, etc. These are certain activities which are encountered, what we call, in the areas bestowed with the biodiversity. The other thing, that is flora and fauna. The fauna comes under what we call the very big and attractive elephants of Africa. Nowhere we find, but we also have elephants in Kerala. But you see, the elephants of the Africa are unique, and sometimes you also come across two-tusked on either side elephants are very rare. Then again, wild safari, where you are taken very close to the African lions. Similarly, in Sundarbans, you will be taken very close to the rhinoceros. These are very rare, unique experience that every tourist, whether boy, girl, and then adolescent people or old age people, would like definitely go there and enjoy. In terms of flora, we are really gifted with the nature, what we call variety of vegetation. The giant trees in Americas, again we also have varieties of floral formations in India and other areas. Go to Kashmir, you will wonder with the saffron crops and other things where no other areas have. So both flora and fauna contribute a lot for adding a new value to a particular destination. The Earth's surface, which is termed as landform, is another nature. Oh, sometimes if we just travel in the Ooty, in the Blue Mountain Express, you just wonder, oh, where are we roaming? Such a beauty spot, nowhere we saw. This is for the first time in our life. We enjoy. So landforms also with undulations and uneven surfaces, with hills and valleys, also form and come under natural attractions. Friends, let us enjoy some illustrations which will signify the beauty and attractiveness of the natural attractions that are now discussed in this module. Let us now move to the second phase of the module, that is cultural attractions, tourist attractions of cultural importance. These are also called, and which include places of historical importance, monuments, stupas, temples, mosques, churches, and other public utility structures like libraries, museums and art galleries, forts, palaces, castles, historical prisons, bridges, theme parks based on culture and cultural events, landmarks such as clock towers, living attractions like music and dance festivals. Here, I would like to take one more moment to give you further explanations on the archaeological sites and historical monuments. You take a country like India, you take a country like Egypt, where historical monuments play a great role in drawing huge tourist influx from the east and west and from all over the globe. And these cultural attractions, for example, in India, I will cite one example, and you can have many more. You need to identify in your own places and relate to the module. And I give the example, Taj Umaid Bhawan Palace in Rajasthan is unique. It's in its architectural expression, aesthetic beauty, and exuberance, artistic skills that are displayed in one single building. Next, the defense architecture. We have many more historical forts that stood as landmarks of a particular dynasty and a particular geographical locale. Take Golconda Fort in Hyderabad as an example. It was built way back in 13th century and continued to serve as a bastion for dynasties up to the Asaf Jahis, and these are very most wanted destinations for the tourists coming not only from within the Telugu states, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, but also from the neighboring states and also from the other countries. Other two examples I would also to give you at this moment is that Taj Mahal, Agra, one of the wonders, one of the 7 wonders of the world. We are really lucky enough to have such a beautiful monument nowhere of its kind in the entire world. On the other hand, you also have a great monolith called the Buddha statue in Hyderabad, though it was built in recent times, that it has been attracting huge tourist crowds from all over the country just because of its uniqueness, that it is 85 feet height and built on a small rock inside a lake called Hussain Saga, which was actually excavated in 1565 AD. The water expands all around the statue, really adds stunning beauty to the standing monolith of the Buddha. Cultural attractions are also categorized under tangible and intangible categories. The tangible category include all the built heritage that are monuments, mosques, forts, etc., which are discussed just now. And the intangible aspects of the cultural attractions include music and dance. Until they are performed, they cannot be experienced. Take an example, Mangalampalli Balamurali Krishna. If you see him while traveling or while he is discussing with some people, you know him as a musician, but you cannot enjoy the musical tones that emanate from his mouth. So also, such a great music exponent as far as the vocal music is concerned, M.S. Subbulakshmi, known for devotional songs. No other of such a great artist comes from any part of India. Again, we also have Ustad Bismillah Khan, we also have Zakir Hussain, we also have Shir Sharma. You can see the musical instruments which will really act as the musical accompaniments for great musicians. So, music is one of the cultural attractions which draw people from other areas just for enjoying the music. On the other hand, we also have under this category called performing arts and intangible culture or heritage is the dance forms of India. You know that there are 6 dance forms in India, beginning with Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, Kathak, Odissi, Manipuri and Kathakali. Every art form has its uniqueness, its repertoire, its dress, its what we call the abhinaya is totally different. Unless until you enjoy a particular dance performance, you cannot enjoy yourself simply listening to the musical tunes. So, the dance or dance forms, both tribal, folk and classical, become cultural attractions of India in particular. You can also relate the other forms called in other terms elsewhere in the world also come under cultural attractions of tourism destinations. Next is a very important aspect that is called as accessibility. Tourists have a demand in their mind, but how will they go? They dream that we want to visit a place, but their dreams cannot come true unless until they reach the place. How to reach the place? There are varieties of modes of transport to reach the place, which we call it as accessibility in tourism studies. Travel or transport is one of the major components of tourism. Tourists get access to a destination by road, rail, water and air. These are the 4 important modes that any tourist will definitely take. Coming to the road transport, we have amazing news. India's road network is considered the second largest of the world with over 46,89,842 kilometers in 2013. Then some more kilometers have been added in the recent 2 years. India's roads consist of modern highways as well as narrow, unpaved roads in rural and remote areas. Over 65% of freight and about 85% of passenger traffic of India is carried by road network. This is very, very important because road network also contributes for promoting tourism not only in India, in other parts of the world also. Roads in India are classified into express highways, which are with very smooth surface, wide, and facilitate people to reach the destinations on a very faster space. National highways, you all know that there is a particular organization called National Highway Authority of India which monitors the need, development, providing highway infrastructure throughout the country. Next is states, that is at national level, but states also have their own role to play in providing road infrastructure which are called state highways. Then urban and rural roadworks. These are what we call varieties of road networks that we have. Sometimes we may take express highway, sometimes we may take national highway, sometimes we may take state highway, sometimes we may resort to urban road network, and even we are in rural tourism, we definitely need to take rural unpaved pathways. Sometimes we will trek in the forest to reach a particular rural tourism attraction. Under the same category of accessibility, we also have a wonderful transport called rail transport or railways. At the time of independence, a total number of 55,000 kilometers long rail network was available there in India, and by now it has become more than 4 times in the existing railway network in India. Most of the people, you know that right from the children to the aged people, they like to travel in trains. Why? They are comforts which road network cannot provide them. Indian Railways celebrated recently 150 years of its existence in the year 2003. Under the project Unigauge, meter and narrow gauge are being replaced by broad gauge, which is major and original standard gauge in India. There were once upon a time meter gauges where you need to transfer from broad gauge to narrow gauge and from narrow gauge to broad gauge, which was a very difficult task to transfer their luggage, not only the personalities. So now we are very happy not only with the single line, we also have the double lines, we also have the facility of electric trains. So we are very, very, very happy as far as railway network in India is concerned towards the promotion of tourism. The last but one category is water transport. A number of inland river ports and jetties were used for transport from time immemorial. As railways gained popularity, river transport began to decline. Union territories, namely Lakshadweep, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, can be reached by ships, cruise lines, which offer regular services from mainland. Particularly, you can see that from Mumbai, Chennai and Kolkata. The last part of this category is air, or what we call airways or air transport. You all know that global business and tourism largely depends on air transport. Air transportation also broadens tourist leisure activities and provides quick reach to wider choice of holiday destinations. It also provides jobs and contributes for economic growth of a country. Here, I would also to add one more thing, that what happens nowadays, we have wonderful fastest air traffic that we have. Even we have added with what we call the greenfield airports for the comforts of the passengers. The one which we have at Hyderabad is a greenfield airport, the one which we have at Kochi is a greenfield airport, and the one we have at Beijing also comes under the greenfield airport. You have got not only the domestic flight connection, and the connectivity is very frequent, and to other countries and continents. That is how the world tourism sector is flourishing never before phase. The travel is a process. In the process, you select a destination by your own choice, then you also select the mode of transport by your choice and affordability, then you will reach the destination, and at destinations tourists demand proper accommodation since they are leaving their homes with comforts and they are at a new place. They prefer similar comforts, more comforts, or luxurious more than that they are used in everyday life. It is called accommodation in terms of hotel and other categories that will be dealt in the current module. Tourists who leave their places of residence need to stay in hotels, lodges, resorts, and other types of rest houses, which in tourism studies are called as accommodation. Comfortable accommodation facilitates and play an important role in promoting tourist destinations worldwide. All tourist spots focus on providing maximum comfort to tourists at reasonable rates so that they can market their properties and gain maximum profits, and it will also be very much affordable to the tourists. Various types of accommodation available are given in the succeeding slides. The very first category is a hotel. The very popular term, if you just refer any newspaper or a magazine, or you just watch over a TV or listen to a radio, what you need is just a little bit of patience to hear on a tourism destination. That is, the very first thing is hotel. A hotel is defined as an establishment which provides accommodation, meals, and other services for travelers and tourists. Travelers are offered paid accommodation and other guest services. Hotels are generally rated from 1 star to 5 stars depending on size, location, and amenities that are made available. Motel is another category which comes under accommodation. Normally designed for motorists, a roadside hotel having the rooms arranged in low blocks with parking directly outside are termed as motels. Nowadays in India, motels are not new, coming up on the roadside with huge parking area and varieties of facilities. Another thing is boutique hotel is a different variety that we come across in India, often furnished in a themed individual style. Boutique hotels are a stylish small hotel usually located in a trendy urban setting. In such hotel, more care is taken to provide the guests with high quality and personalized experiences. What we call is customized services are made available at the boutique hotels. You get a swimming pool, you get a massage center, you get laundry, you get a salon. Everything is provided at what we call the boutique hotel. Very important and the most gaining ground accommodation is called resort, where you can spend your leisure with all the family members. A resort refers to a full service lodging establishment that offers extensive guest services and recreational facilities. Resorts are generally located in the suburbs of major cities. You take any city in India is surrounded by wonderful, spacious, beautiful tourist enclaves called resorts. Certain are theme-based water resorts, certain are what we call with rural settings, rural resorts, certain are so called as nature resorts like Pragati resorts in Hyderabad. And what we call is a multi-facility resort like Ramoji Film City is a resort with wonderful varieties of facilities. Though hostels doesn't directly come under the category of hotels, they also provide comfortable stay for the travelers and tourists. An enterprise which provides low cost food and lodging for a particular group of people such as students, workers or tourists is called a hostel. This type of accommodation is ideal for budget travelers and backpackers. Hotels usually have shared bedrooms and common facilities. In India, YWCA, YWMA are very much popular as far as hostels are concerned. On the other hand, you also have youth hostels in each and every state run by the state departments providing similar facilities not only to the youth visiting for sports and other cultural activities but also for tourist groups. Other forms of accommodation include tree houses, also called as jungle lodges, as you are seeing on the screen, and apartment hotel with only apartments but there will not be much more comforts available. Ice hotel, where in the ice area hotels are built. Homestay, you all know that paying extra accommodation is one of the important aspect that worldwide most of the people are coming forward inviting tourists. Why can't you come, stay with us, dine with us, live with us and learn what we practice? That is what we call homestay. Vacation rentals, you can go just take rent an apartment, etc. Then camping sites are there where tents are pitched up for only tourists for a temporary period. Then bread and breakfast, they are not hotels but we can call them as apartments where you will be provided bed, then only breakfast. For lunch and dinner you have to take outside only. The next thing are the activities in the same module that we have to discuss is a wide variety of activities which can bring more tourists to a destination. The duration of stay at a destination will also increase if there are different choice of activities to engage in. I myself would like to go to Himalayas, but I cannot go for trekking. Then my purpose of visit is not served. Then I also go to water bodies where there will be a cascade. I cannot take what we call that water rafting. So similarly, places with varieties of activities which come under the category of adventure activities or which bear risk, yet tourists are excited to experience that. Like ghetto tourism in the west, jungle tourism again in the west, now taking a little bit ground in India, in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu states. Then under the same category, we also have thrilling activities which really take you to take a ride on the water, to take a dive in the air, and you want to climb up a mountain, that is called mountaineering, and sometimes you also take a ride on the water called it is white water rafting, which really take little risk, and bungee jumping. But an amount of risk a tourist has to bear in his mind before taking to that particular activity. In spite of that, most of the tourists like to take all these activities come under activities, whether it is land based, water based or air based. For that, what the service providers and also the tourists need is specialized skills or more physical effort than only the adventure activities at a particular tourism destinations will sustain, survive and beneficial. Yet another new activity that has come to India very recently, which is very famous from the Middle Ages in the West and including the present day modern cities like Las Vegas. And in India, nightlife is experienced in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Bengaluru and also Hyderabad, slowly picking up because of various constraints that particular nightlife activity is not at all flourishing. All activities which are organized from late in the evening till early in the morning are collectively known as nightlife. It takes account of bars, cabarets, cinemas, concerts, live music, nightclubs, parties, pubs, restaurants, shows, theatre, whatnot. Whole lot of activities which are taken during the night come under nightlife. Sports is again an enchanting activity which a very particular section of people would tend to participate. Participating in the sport is one aspect where, as travel, as a part of observing a sport event, also considered as an activity. Take, for example, the Beijing Olympics. The players themselves are tourists, or they are also called in many a time, the cricketers are called the visitors who scored, the visitors. The players are called visitors, and people who are the viewers, the tourists sitting in the galleries, are also called tourists because they didn't come to play, but they see the event and it becomes an activity in tourism. Like cultural events, we also have other events called conferences and exhibitions, and business meetings come under the other activities in tourism sector, which will draw huge crowds. And the crowds are not the common tourists, they are very highly expensive tourists where a lot of money comes into the tourism sector. Events and conferences also attract tourists to various destinations. Tourists travel to different places to take part in such events, and these events require infrastructure like HICC in Hyderabad, like HITEX in Hyderabad, and most of the cities also have huge exhibition halls where conferences could be organized simultaneously. The last item of the module is called as amenities. Amenities are facilities that a tourist needs at a particular destination or during the travel or during the transit. Amenities or facilities refer to aspects such as basic services at tourism destinations that are required to meet the needs of tourists while they are away from home. A well-developed destinations will provide the tourists with amenities such as salon, healthcare facility, public safety and security, which are very important for tourists. Other amenities include service providers like travel agencies, tour operators, drinking water, public toilets, shopping, local guides, tourist police, local transport, etc. I think the students are now enjoying the illustrations that they are appearing on the screen, which definitely enhance the understanding of the module. This module gave us scope for understanding a particular part of the tourism sector that is called as the components of tourism in its totality, which were defined in terms of 5 A's, 5 attractions at a particular destination or during your travel or transit, etc. We have learnt so far on various components of tourism that include transport facilities in terms of different modes, accommodation facilities, again various categories of hotels, lodges, motels, resorts, etc. Pleasing weather, the scenic beauty, the seaside, and again the snowfall, those come under pleasing weather. The scenic attraction, the wonderful flora and fauna with rare biodiversity is under this category. Historical sites, you all know that we have discussed about on some forts, some monuments, some stupas, etc. all come under historical sites and monuments, which are defined as the tangible cultural sites. On the other hand, cultural events which are not tangible, called as intangible, that is music and dance, come under performing arts. Unless until we perform, we cannot enjoy that particular concert or event or ballet. Last but not the least is safety and security. You know pretty well that in most of the cases, if the area is infested with terrorist activities, so nobody would like to go to that particular place. Similarly, if there are natural calamities expected and if the weather forecast is not good, nobody will go. The ultimate demand that the tourists want is safety and security. I think you already understood the components, their significance, and the role that they play in development of tourism in any destination or country so far discussed in this particular module. Thanking you.